Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Reversing Hashimoto Show. I am your host, Dr. Anshul Gupta, and I have a very special guest today, an important person who has struggled with a lot of health struggles. A lot of you will resonate with her because the kind of things that she have dealt with in terms of her health. Most of you might be already going through, especially as it relates to Hashimoto's and thyroid conditions. And then she overcame all of them by working on her health through a series of functional medicine testing as well as work that she has done. And now she is brave enough to share her story, to give hope to people around with Hashimoto's and thyroid disorders. So I want you to meet Heather over here. So Heather, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Dr. Anshul Gupta, and everyone. My name is Heather, and I live in Arizona. I'm a mother of three little boys, 10 and under, so very busy. And yeah, I'm so excited to be here and to share my story with you.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for doing that. It takes a lot of courage to come over here and share your struggles that a person has dealt with. It's very emotional time for a lot of our people who have done that before. So I really, really thank you for doing that. So why don't we start with your story? Tell us what all health struggles you were going through before you started working on your health through functional medicine. So tell us about your things.
Oh my goodness. So it's funny. I actually went through the list and I was trying to remember everything, and it's quite the list. So I mean, I had all the hallmark signs, fatigue, to the point where I couldn't either getting up out of bed in the morning was just really difficult. I was always tired no matter what. During the day, like halfway through, I felt like I needed to take naps, often days. My hair was shedding all the time. After I would get out of the shower, just clumps. And then, like, every time I brushed it, it would just be clumps of hair shedding all the time. I was moody, which, was my husband didn't really appreciate all the time. Feelings of anxiety for no reason, just always feeling anxious. And, I work, I have three kids, and, there's different stressors of life, but really there wasn't anything that I felt was so crazy that I should have this just anxious feeling all the time. Um, my cycles, my periods, those were irregular and oftentimes heavy, which I never really struggled with any of that before. I had to have acne breakouts, dark circles, and puffiness under my eyes, allergies, which I thought were just seasonal allergies, but now come to find I don't actually have allergies. So, brain fog. And then my fasting blood sugars, like I never had issues with blood sugar issues. And my last test before I met with you, Dr. Gupta, were borderline pre-diabetic. I was at 99, and that was really concerning to me. And then constipation, which you don't really think is a thing, or you don't really notice that, like, oh, you should be a lot more regular. And then just those last, stubborn 5 pounds of weight that I couldn't get off after my last pregnancy. So, quite the list of things. When I saw different health providers, there was always a reason for, oh, that's probably because you're a new mom and you've got lots of kids, and or maybe it's because of your age, you could be going into early menopause, or like all these different things that the doctors just kept pushing aside and assuming that these were the issues, and never really getting to the root cause. So, so glad I was able to find you.
Mhm. And absolutely. And you were also diagnosed with hypothyroid or the Hashimoto's too, right?
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, and then that, of course. So my TSH was elevated. The very first time I noticed that my TSH was elevated was actually in my very first pregnancy when I went to the doctor for my first checkup and did the blood work. She said, "Oh, your TSH is a little elevated, but not to worry. We're going to retest it in a few weeks, and we'll see where it's at." And so a couple weeks went by. We did another test, and it was within normal range. So she said, "Oh, it's probably just hormones, changing because of your pregnancy. No need to worry. Just keep an eye on it. I'm sure it's fine." And so I just kind of put it in the back of my mind and never really thought about it again. For my second pregnancy, it was normal. So I was like, oh, great. It must have just been some fluke thing that, who knows? And then my third pregnancy, same thing. It was normal. So I didn't even think about it. And then it wasn't until probably 3 years after my second pregnancy, well, maybe 2 years after my second or my last pregnancy, where I just kept having all of these issues still. And I thought, well, maybe it's female hormones, right? Like maybe my hormones are just off because I had a baby. He wasn't sleeping through the night all the time consistently yet. And so everybody was like, oh, of course you're tired. Your child's waking you up in the middle of the night. Like, of course you're going to be tired. And then I just kept feeling like something was off. And the hair shedding, oh, well, you just had a baby, your hormones are getting back to normal. Your hair is probably just shedding because of that. And then the period cycles, when those started coming back, and they were just very irregular and very heavy, which I never had either of those issues either. So I thought, well, okay, it must be my female hormones. And so I went to go back to see my OB and get a blood draw and all of that. And she did my TSH, but it was still not normal, but not flagged on the test. It was just under 4. It was in the high 3s at that point. And nobody ever tested my antibodies. So we didn't know any of that yet. And she was telling me, oh, it looks like you're going into perimenopause. And I was like, really? Like I was only 35 years old at the time. And I'm like, how is this possible that I'm already going into perimenopause? And she said, well, it's all right. Like some people do it at different ages, and you can either go on the pill, the birth control pill, if you want to regulate it, or if you want to have another baby, I can send you to a fertility doctor. And I was like, wait a minute, where's like the in-between option there? Like, isn't there like something else I could do? Is there another option? And she said, no, like this is really like, this is it. So I was very disappointed, and I just kind of looked, I was grabbing at everything I could. I was trying to listen to podcasts. I was trying to look online, different things. And I told myself, okay, I'm going to try to figure things out with diet and exercise. And hopefully that'll kind of like get it back into regular cycles, and everything will go back to normal. And I tried to prioritize sleep. I got my child sleeping through the night, and we worked really hard to make sure that that was solid. And I said, okay, you know what, whatever. I'm going to try the 6 month. I'm going to try going on the pill for a few months. Maybe it'll kickstart everything to get back. Terrible idea, but I didn't know any better at the time. And so I tried that. After a few months, it wasn't, I was like, okay, I'm going to stop and see if it's re-regulated. And
So just to clarify, so you did go on the levothyroxine, the thyroid medicine, right? That's what you're
not the
talking about.
thyroid. No, not the thyroid medicine yet. This was just birth control, because I was like, okay, well, I was sure that, okay, nothing's wrong with my thyroid. I thought it was just female hormones, all out of whack. And so after trying that for, I think it was about 4 or 5 months, I was like, okay, I don't want to. I heard all the negative things about birth control pills, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I got off of that. Everything was still, everything had still been the same. There was no change. And I was like, okay, this obviously isn't working. So I went back to my primary care physician, and just kind of went over the list again, and did my wellness check, tried to see if there was anything else that he thought of. And he was not a female hormone specialist, so he sent me to somebody else. And that's where I went in, and they finally tested. They tested all of my hormones, including my thyroid and including my antibodies this time. And at that point, my thyroid was up at 5.87. And so definitely flagged on the test. And my antibodies came back at 207. And so I asked the doctor, I was like, so that's Hashimoto's, isn't it? Like I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know a lot about it yet. And they, I was talking to a nurse practitioner, and she was like, oh, well, I don't know that I would call it Hashimoto's, but you definitely have hypothyroid. And I'm like, isn't this literally the definition of Hashimoto's, is that you have antibodies? And so I was like, okay, I got to find somebody that specializes in this area. And at that point too, they had done all the female hormones, and they tried to tell me that I was in full menopause, like, oh, you're in menopause. And I was like, how is this possible? Like, I don't understand. And so at that point, she told me there's different podcasts I can try to find. Like, there are people out there that are, doing alternative things, trying to slow it or reverse it. And they had offered for me to go on NP thyroid, was the prescription that she wanted to write for me. And I said, okay, wait, like, I'm not okay with just going on a pill for the rest of my life and just saying like, oh, I didn't want to accept it. And so I was like, okay, thanks, no thanks. I'm going to see what I can find out. And that's when I started going down the rabbit hole on different podcasts. That's where I found you. I read your book first, and I listened to all your podcasts. I watched the YouTube videos, and I started doing some of the things. And then it's interesting. I actually went to a nurse practitioner that did aesthetics, because I was so upset about like the bags under my eyes, and I thought, well, maybe I just need some filler or something like that, or maybe I need some different facials and laser or something. And when I went to her, I was so lucky I found her too, because she said, no, Heather, I think you've got issues with your gut. Like, all the things in your face, they come out through your gut. And if we figure out what's going on there, you might be able to fix your skin issues. And I said, oh, well, that would be great. So she was the first one that had me do a food sensitivity test, which came up that I was flagged for dairy and eggs, and then a few other things like almonds, pineapple, banana, a few random things there. But she was like, okay, like the dairy and the eggs, like let's cut that. And she was like, oh, gluten didn't pop up on your food sensitivity test. You can still eat that if you want. And I kind of knew, I was like, well, I'm not so sure about the gluten thing because of other things I had read. So I started cutting those things out. And then a big one was candida. She said, you have candida in your blood, which is not good. So that's when she said, you want to cut out all added sugars as well, and try that for 6 weeks. Cut all these things out. She gave me a medication for an antifungal to try to get rid of the candida. And I tried that at first. I had terrible symptoms after the first few days.
The diet
But
reactions, yeah.
yes, and to the point where I like put myself in a panic attack. And
Mhm.
we were at a baseball game, and I was like, "What is happening?" And it was a crazy experience. But they were like, "Oh, the medical staff there was like, this looks like a panic attack," and I was like, "What? Like, I've never had one of those before. What is going on?" And they were like, "Just try to take some deep breaths and relax." And everything kind of went away. And I called that doctor back, and I was like, "Well, I had all these symptoms, all these reactions." And she's like, okay, let's just slow it down. So she had me slow down the anti-fungal medication, and I was able to get through it, and it helped. And I stayed off of those foods. We retested again, and already my antibodies, or not my antibodies yet, but my TSH went to 5.17. So I was like, okay, we're trending in the right direction. We're doing some good things. But I told her, I was like, I feel like I just need to take it to the next level. And I told her I'd listened to these podcasts, and I was like, well, what if I have heavy metals or mold or, all these other things, and even parasites, or all these things you hear about. And she was like, well, she's like, that's like a whole nother, like, you don't want to unleash the dragon. She's like, let's do it really slow. She's like, I don't think you should go there yet. And she kind of tried to slow me down. And I was like, well, I don't know. And just something inside me was like, no, I feel like I have to attack this. Like, I'm not the type to just sit back and just accept, that this is
Mhm.
how I'm going to feel for the rest of my life. And so yeah, at that point I was like, well, I took a little bit of time. And then that's when I finally, like, after listening to your podcast, I said, no, he's these consultations. Like, I've got to talk to him. I've got to see if there is another way. And I'm so thankful I did. So that's kind of the background there. And fast
Absolutely.
forward. Yeah.
So that's good. So tell us, like, you did a lot of work, with us, over the course of several months. So where are you
Mhm.
now? Like, tell us,
Yeah.
people, like, you have a whole list of problems that you were dealing with. What has improved, what has not improved? What did you feel about things now?
Yeah. So after we started meeting, and we went over everything, of course, and we did all the different testing, which I I I'm glad I did that because I know it's a little bit more money in up front to do the testing and find out, but I'm so thankful I did because it was able to pinpoint, okay, yes, you have heavy metals and these are the metals that you're struggling with. And yes, you do have mold. So these are the molds you're struggling with. And it was able to get me to look at just my environment too and say, okay, well, where am I getting mold or where am I getting heavy metals and things like that. And then the leaky gut portion of it. So at first we worked on the gut, and I remember you told me, well, we got to fix the gut before we fix all these other things because it's kind of like the root of where everything starts. And so we worked on the gut for the first 4 months, I think, only the gut. Healing that. I did the diet, completely strict, no gluten, dairy, corn, soy, eggs, caffeine, alcohol, refined sugars, added sugars. At first, it's a little bit daunting, as a mother of three, and I've got my husband, I've got a job, I've got life going on, and you want to be social and still see people at, meet at restaurants and things like that. But after you figure it out, I was like, wow, I can do this and still live a normal life and do things like, yeah, you have to kind of look at the menu a little bit differently. And yeah, you've got to, talk to the waiter or waitresses and kind of figure out like, okay, what exactly is in this or in that. And, but in those first 4 months alone, I remember we redid the testing. We started in August, and in December I retested, and just right then, my TSH went from 5.17 down to 1. I think it was 1.45 in that first one. And I was like, wow. And my antibodies from 207 down to 33. And that alone, I was like, up, I'm done. Like, I'm sold. Like, this works. Like, it's amazing. And I was just floored at how big of a difference it had already made just those first 4 months. And we hadn't even touched the heavy metals or the mold yet. And so it was just very exciting, and just gave me a lot of hope that like, yes, this is it. Like, I'm on the right path. I'm going to get rid of this, and I never have to take that medication. And I was so excited. And so from there, yeah, we started the heavy metals first. I remember that we did the detox for the mercury. Mostly I had mercury, aluminum, and we did that portion. And after we retested that, everything was completely gone for the heavy metals. So that was great. And then we started attacking the mold. And I know that one was a little bit trickier. I had to kind of look through my house and figure out, like, where is this coming from? Is it my home? Is it my work? And I work in real estate. So, you're in and out of these different homes all the time. And, there could be mold there that you just don't even know about yet. But yeah, come to find out, we did air duct cleaning, and that's where we ended up finding some mold. And so I'm thankful we were able to get rid of that. But we worked on the mold, and now I know I'm about to retest. I haven't retested yet, but I'm pretty hopeful because out of all my symptoms, I mean, my fatigue is completely better. I don't have to take naps anymore. I haven't had caffeine in over a year, maybe a year and a half, and I don't miss it. Like, I wake up and I just feel like I'm energized again. And that alone is amazing, because when you wake up and you feel like a truck hit you and you're like, wait, I slept like 9 hours and I don't feel like I slept at all. And it's just debilitating when you don't feel well like that, and you're just tired, and then you're running after 3 kids and you want to be energetic for them. And so I was drinking caffeine all the time. I had my morning latte, I had my afternoon latte, I had my later afternoon matcha. I was
And I still remember that, in our first meeting when I said, you have to give up caffeine, and you were like looking
yeah.
at me like, I don't think I can just survive you in one day without caffeine. And I said, okay, don't worry, trust me, slowly and slowly we'll get you off caffeine and you will not even need it. So
Yeah.
first of all, I'm glad that you trusted, like what I said and, what we are going to do. And
Yeah.
you were brave enough to actually follow the path. And,
Right.
that's happens with almost all of my clients, like, because I'm a coffee addict. Basically, I loved it. For me to give up coffee was a very, very big challenge. But
Mm-hmm.
once I did it, I don't need it. So I tell people that, it is possible. And trust me, once you give it, you have the right, like, healing process in your body. then your body itself is going to work good as soon as you wake up in the morning. So
Yeah.
that's exactly like, thing happened with you too.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I don't miss it either. Like at first I thought, oh, I'm gonna miss it. And I did a little bit, it's nice to have your morning cup of, some kind of nice latte drink or fancy drink or whatever. But we switched to the smoothies and I love it. Like I have my morning smoothie now and I got my recipe down to exactly what I like. And that's kind of my grab and go in the morning now. So that part is great. I mean, my fatigue is just, yeah, so that part has resolved. I mean, some days like, yeah, you feel a little bit tired, but it's nowhere near the same. Like I don't feel like I have to take a nap. I'm not falling asleep at my children's events, and like they're out there practicing and I'm sitting here falling asleep trying to stay awake. And now I don't have that. I can watch and enjoy everything. And the hair shedding too, like I was amazed that that was all related to all these different hormones. My hair stopped shedding and it's great now. And it's a normal level of hair that comes off when I shower and brush my hair and things like that. My mood's a lot better. I have no more anxiety. Like all of that is completely gone. And which is just fascinating to me. Just healing your gut and doing all these things can get rid of all of that. My face, my complexion completely changed. I went back to the aesthetics doctor and took like a before and after photo. I used to have this redness in my cheeks just all the time, and like the redness is gone, the dark circles are gone, and I never even had to get any kind of nothing. Like I didn't do any filler, I didn't do any laser, I didn't do anything like that. Allergies, which I just thought, oh, like everybody has allergies. It's, you get sniffles or itchy throats or things like that all the time. And no, I haven't had to take Claritin probably since those first, I think that after that first month we met, like I never had to take it again. And brain fog, I feel like I can remember things again. I'm a lot sharper when I'm in meetings again with clients and things like that. So that's been great. And then my blood sugars, that was another thing too, which I was at 99 right before I started all of this, which was really concerning. I had my father's side, like he had diabetes. And so I always knew that, well, something that I want to watch out for. And I never had an issue with it. I'd always had fasting blood sugars in like the 80s or high 70s, and I never had an issue. When I retested that, it was back down to 80. So I was like, whew, good. back to normal levels there. And then the constipation. Who knew that, you needed to be regular and have regular bowels every day? Like otherwise that's not really normal. And these toxins are getting held up inside of you. So it's just been amazing to see the process and to just feel completely different and back to my normal self. And growing up, I was a big athlete and I always had a lot of energy. I was always, always moving and always fast beat and with everything. And it was kind of a wake up call to be like, what's going on? Like I'm in my mid 30s and I don't feel at all like I used to. And that's like something that shouldn't happen until you're way older. and just to have my vitality back, it's been amazing. So, which I attribute completely to you. So,
Well, nothing on my side. You did all the hard work, that, eventually pays off. It is difficult. I always tell people, like, a lot of changes are needed. And you were really good, a patient where you were actually just doing everything to the T, including the diet, including the supplements. And, the biggest thing was just having faith and having trust, right?
mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
most people have lost that trust that, well, they have been told time and again, the antibodies cannot come down, you cannot reverse this disease, ultimately you are looking to going on the medications, and then with these symptoms maybe you need to go to a psychiatrist, or go on anxiety medicine. That's what they have been told, so they just have completely lost hope. So even somebody like me who is telling them that, okay, well, it is possible, they cannot believe that. It feels like, okay, well, no, you're talking in a language that we don't understand, that
Mm-hmm.
this is not possible, and you're just giving false hopes. So
Yeah.
having the trust of, like doing these things obviously takes time. Like for you, it was not a quick fix. It is not in a day too.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, if you're ready to put in the effort and the work, then it happens. So I
Yeah.
think I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating. Like after going through this process too, and talking to my friends about it, I was floored at the amount of friends I have that actually struggle with thyroid issues. And it's just this, nobody talks about it. Everybody just thinks like, oh yeah, I have thyroid issues, but my doctor just put me on some medication and it is what it is. Like, and they attribute these different all these different symptoms to like, oh, it's probably this, oh, it's probably that, like, oh, female hormones or things like that. Which, by the way, I don't think I mentioned that. That's all back to normal. Like, I have regular cycles again, and it's not heavy. They're normal, like normal periods. Which I'm like, all these things where everybody was like, oh, it's probably this or it's probably that, and you just kind of live life thinking like, oh, you just take one at a time, and you're just like, oh yeah, well, this is what happens. You have kids and you get tired, or you get older, and that's just part of getting older, and they accept it. And I'm like, no, it's just like I keep telling people, I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way, and it's not that part. Like, yeah, you have to do a lot of work, but I mean the reward, I mean, like it's amazing. It's just something that I wish more people knew about, and I'm so happy that you're out there sharing and spreading this, because people need to know. They need to know that there's an alternative.
Absolutely. And that's so important that, the alternatives out there, people are ready to put the effort, things pay off, like how your antibodies improve significantly, your TSH improve significantly. I mean, you didn't have to even go on medications, right? Whether it is female hormones or thyroid hormones or any other hormones, right?
Right.
You know,
Right.
most of the females will end up like, at least 4 or 5 prescription medications, as you said, maybe birth control, maybe on anxiety medicine, and maybe on a thyroid medicine. And then suddenly, there are side effects from those. So
Yeah.
that has not needed. Without those also, like, you can heal your body and then get it back to shape. So that's a very big message that you are sharing with people out there, that you were told to have so many different medications and now you're literally on none, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Like it's fantastic. And I don't have to deal with side effects from all these different medications. I don't have to be dependent on any medications. It's great. So yeah, I'm just so thankful.
Absolutely. So a lot of people might have this question, like, and they do it with us also, that, well, what is that was different, right?
Mhm.
Because you already were making some changes to your diet, you already working with a practitioner with some supplements and things. So what did you think was the missing piece over here, or what was different that actually finally made it like, a big aha moment? Well, things started changing for you.
And I think it was just finally piecing all of them together. Before it was like I felt like I was piecemealing it, like, oh, there's this here and that there, and oh, if I work on this and that, but there wasn't a collective plan, and a collective order, I guess, of let's do this first so that your body can start to reheal itself. And when I finally met with you, it was kind of putting together all the different pieces, um, which I felt like everything was just scattered before. So it was able, I felt like I was able to finally we were able to put a good plan together, of attack. And it was just like, it just kind of knocked it out, like going from one thing to the next thing to the next, um, kind of made it a cohesive way to heal. Um, because yeah, before it just kind of grasped me at different straws. I don't think my body put it all together until it was like we addressed the gut and then allowed that to heal. So then it wasn't a constant attack inside of my immune system. And then we were able to, address the heavy metals and then address the mold. And it just kind of all fell into place after that. Like, kind of had all the blocks stacked, and you just kind of knock them down one at a time in the right order, and you get it back to normal. So
Absolutely. And that is a one big piece that a lot of people miss. Like they say that, okay, well,
mhm,
I've already eliminated gluten, or, I'm already taking
mhm,
supplements. So what is different? And I always tell people there are root causes, not just one cause. So, first of all,
mhm,
you need to know all of the causes of your body, and then you have to put them all together and address them one at a time. And
right.
you correctly said that, it is like a big puzzle. And let's say if a puzzle has 100 pieces, we need all of those 100 pieces to be put together to solve the complete puzzle. Some
Mhm,
people have like, 1 or 2 pieces figure out and they will feel some difference. but to finally getting all the 100 pieces together is where, you will get the maximum benefit, and you will see, like, suddenly that things start shifting very quickly.
Right,
So
right.
that is absolutely the case.
Right. And I had those food sensitivities, and I know I cut out different things in the beginning, but I felt like once I cut out all of the potential allergens, that really helped, because it was like, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And I know we struggled a lot, and I had a lot of questions about, like, well, can I have this back or can I have that back? But it was really like, I see now that it was important to kind of eliminate all of them, just to help eliminate that question and have my body be able to heal itself and do what it needed to do.
Absolutely. Heather, thank you so much, for coming over here and sharing your story. Any parting words you have for people who are listening over here?
Um, Parting words, I guess I would just say, uh, I really just want people to know that there is another way. And yeah, it sounds hard, or it sounds difficult, and it is a little bit more expensive than going the conventional route and taking the prescribed medication, but it is so worth it, 100% worth it. And I saw my grandmother recently passed away, and I just saw the struggles that she had, and I don't know if she had Hashimoto's or not, but a week before she passed, we found out that she had this mass on her thyroid, and I just couldn't help but wonder, did she have Hashimoto's that didn't go in, that went undetected for all these years? She had struggled, I know, with some different hypothyroid issues in the past as well, and it made me. It was an aha moment for me to just think, wow, like, could that be me? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, with all these issues just going unresolved. And, you're going to pay the price, whether you pay it now or pay it later. And so I'm just thankful that, I made the investment now to do the supplements. I took the time to do the diet and to do all the things. And now I feel like I can just have my life back again. And that, I still have all these years ahead of me where I can feel rejuvenated again, and I can have my, feel like I have my youth back. And I just think that's so amazing. And for other people to just hear that, I want them to know that, they've got to take the chance. They've got to try it, because you'll feel unbelievable. And I feel like you don't really see it until you go through it, because I've talked to, my old doctor. I wanted to go back and rub it in her face and be like, look, you told me that there wasn't any other way, and that, oh, you just take the thyroid medicine, and unfortunately that's all there is. And I just wish that, more doctors would be open to seeing that, finding the root cause is worth it, and going through this process is worth it. And that, there's another way. So I really hope that people hear that, and that, they take the chance and they go for it, because it's worth it. So
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, for coming over here, sharing looks things in so much detail about you. Again, it is not easy, for people to know what you have, all struggles you have gone through.
mhm.
But good to know that everything is back to normal. You're doing so great, and you're giving hope, a message of hope to people who are listening over here, that, they can also get their life back. So thank you again, Heather, for coming over here and sharing your story.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
A pleasure. All right, guys, this is it for today. Thank you so much. Bye bye.